Hello, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us for the live Sage Intacct demonstration hosted by Vision33. So, for those of you who I have not yet met, my name is Sarah Legg, and I'm your Sage Intacct sales consultant here at Vision33. And joining me today is Matthew Frampton, who is our senior implementation consultant, as well as a CPA. He'll be leading you through the demonstration and showing you how Sage Intacct can support your business. Here's a quick overview of today's session. So I'll kick things off with about 5 minutes or so for an introduction, and then Matthew will spend some time going through the main presentation, which will take about 40 minutes. So before we jump into the demonstration, I just wanted to give a quick introduction to Vision 33. So here at Vision 33, we believe that, of course, choosing the right software is important, but choosing the right partner is really what drives long-term success. At Vision 33, we help businesses streamline their processes and grow with Sage Intacct. We are known for our deep expertise, strong customer relationships, and ongoing support that goes well beyond go live. Like Sage, we're a global company with a local feel. Our teams across the US, Canada, and the UK are ready to support you wherever you are. Here are some of our customers that are running Sage Intacct. Of course, this is just a small snapshot of our customer base. They come from all over the spectrum, including not-for-profit, SaaS, technology, professional services, financial services, and much more. So I'm sure most of you have done your research on Sage Intacct, but I wanted to just share a few highlights with you. As you can see, Sage Intacct supports a wide range of industries, and it's built with industry-specific functionality in mind. So that focus allows us to bring real expertise to the table and guide our customers through implementations that align best with the practices in their sector, especially when it comes to things like reporting and compliance. Here we have a quick snapshot of Sage's global impact. Sage operates in 26 countries, generates over 2 billion in recurring revenue, and serves millions of customers worldwide. And again, we have another snapshot highlighting Sage Intacct's global reach. We support global businesses, local businesses with tailored solutions backed by powerful capabilities. And of course, if you're interested in the underlying numbers, Sage Intacct is as secure as it gets. So you no longer need to worry about things like backups, downtime, costly upgrades. It just works all the time. Sage Intacct isn't a solution that was retrofitted for the cloud. It's a cloud native solution from its first line of code. It's an affordable, easy to use solution for finance teams that need only specialized finance tools. It's also a modular solution, which means you pay only for what you need right now and can add more functionality down the road. Here at Vision 33, we call Sage Intacct a best of breed solution. And its open API makes it easy to seamlessly integrate with other best of breed solutions. For integrations, Sage has what's called the Sage Intacct Marketplace, filled with pre-built integrations to other best of breed solutions. For example, payroll, CRM, recruiting and staffing solutions, e-commerce, and so much more. And if the solution that you want to integrate is not on the Sage Intacct Marketplace, Vision 33 can build the integration for you with Saltbox. Saltbox is Vision 33's exclusive cloud-based integration solution built by our automation and integration experts. And we just wanted to share a final word about Sage Intacct's embedded AI. While it's not built into our demo environment just yet, we wanted to introduce you to Sage Copilot. Basically, Sage Copilot is like getting a very smart productivity assistant. It gives you answers you can trust and tools for smoother, faster month-end close. So be sure to ask your consultant about Sage Copilot when they follow up with you. So that is it from me. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matthew for the demonstration. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everyone. As Sarah mentioned, my name is Matthew, and I'm going to walk us through our demo today. Before we jump into actual functionality, just a couple notes back to the cloud software, just to emphasize them a little. Being a native cloud environment, Intacct is 100% browser-based. So what that means is no installing a solution on specific computers, no server costs, no maintenance costs, no added security costs. You can access your system anywhere, anytime from any device. Not really cell phone friendly, so I say any device, but on a cell phone would be a little bit tough. But at home on your personal laptop, in a Starbucks, in an airport, as long as you have a device that can access the internet, an internet connection, and you know your credentials, you can log on and do everything you see me do today. And no need for a VPN, no need for anything extra. It's all fully safe and secure. So just log in and do your thing. Next would be updates to the solution. So with older on-prem solutions, when an update is released for those solutions, a lot of times you have to confirm the update, you have to install the update, you have to wait for it to install and so on. With Intacct, that'll go away. Intacct, since it's all on the cloud, gets updated automatically 4 times per year. A very seamless update. It'll happen outside of your normal hours as everybody's server is somewhere in their geographical location. It won't make the solution unavailable. It won't slow the solution down. You don't have to push any buttons. You don't have to confirm anything. It just happens. So you log out one day, the update is not there. You log in the next day, the update is there. If it weren't for this little note on my home screen that tells us 2025 release 2 is here, you might not notice that the release happened unless you go into some configuration screens and you notice some new options. But if you want to learn about the most recent release, you can click on read the release notes. That will pop open a full directory here. There is a nice highlight video which goes through all the changes. I like to watch this video, make some notes about what interests me the most, what I think can help my clients the most, either ongoing projects or past projects, or things that I think I could really put to use in the future. And when I make a note of those features, I come out and I drill into the actual module itself. And I'll go into the reading material and I'll start testing it out. I'll look in some environments and just play with it a little or read about it. So they're fairly broad updates. Like in release 2, we've had updates in AP, AR, cash management, all the way down through this list. You can really focus in on the area that interests you the most, and away you go. There is a release calendar as well, which will actually tell you when each release will occur. These releases happen on these dates every single year, not the same date every year, but when you get the calendar, that is the date that this will happen. Release 1 was on the 7th of February, release 2 was on the 9th of May, release 3 will be on the 8th of August, and so on. So just keeps you on a state-of-the-art solution. You're always on the most up-to-date version, and you always get some added functionality here or there throughout the year. With that out of the way, let's jump into the actual solution itself. So Intacct does a lot of stuff really, really well, from your core accounting functionalities like your accounts payable, your accounts receivable, your cash management, your GL module, of course, and taxes if you know you're in Canada or the UK, or I think there's some Ireland taxes in there. And if you're in the US, then you would have an integration with Avalara. But a couple of areas where it really stands out from the competition. First would be multi-entity management and working under a company that has multiple operating entities. So I have some practical experience doing this when I was still working as an accountant. I worked for a group of senior citizens homes. So if I was doing work in one of those homes and I needed to go do work in another, I would have to log out of one solution, log back in under a different ID, and away I go. I would also have to check to see if anyone's working in single user mode or multi-user mode or shared mode, whatever it may be. But within Intacct, that's going to go away. So right now I'm on the top level of my company, as you can see here, highlighted in the yellow orange top level. That means I'm at the master level. I can see data for any company under the umbrella. If I hit the drop down, I can see all of the different companies that are under this organization. So they're all named as countries, but they are all meant to operate individual operating entities. So if I'm doing work in USA Company 1 and I decide I want to go to work in USA Company 2, I don't log out, I don't log back in. I just click my drop down for my entities and I move in to my next entity. And I can actually have as many of my entities open simultaneously on separate tabs across my screen. So I have the top level open in one, my USA Company 1 in another, my USA Company 2 in another. There's no limit on the amount of users that are in here. So no more of that logging out and logging back in. On top of that convenience, some other things that happen are, well, first of all, the question we always get is if we have this type of structure, if I have some employees that should be able to log in and do work under one of these companies or two of them or three of them or four of them, can I ensure that those are the only entities they can see? And the answer is yes. It's very easy to control which entities every user can see. On top of that, if you go one step further and have different operating companies in different regions of the world, different countries, there is multi-currency management. So if we take a look at our consolidation module and our organization view, we will see that all of these entities are operating in their own base currency. So Australia in the Australian dollar, Canada in the Canadian dollar, South Africa in the South African rand, US in US dollars, and so on. They can all process multi-currency transactions with ease. So the USA company can put in a transaction in any currency in the world that you need to, as can any other entity in this environment. At any point in time, we can create a set of consolidation books to consolidate whatever group of these entities we want to, one of them, two of them, three of them, all of them, consolidate those financials into any currency in the world. Any elimination entries that occur throughout that consolidation, the system will take care of automatically. And also, if you ever process any transactions that would normally produce an intercompany transaction, such as transferring money out of one bank account owned by one entity into a bank account owned by another, or the Canada company pays a bill, an accounts payable transaction that was an expense for the USA company one, it gets paid out of the Canadian dollar bank account. So the USA could have a Canadian dollar bank account, but a bank account owned by the Canadian company. Those transactions would result in a due to, due from transaction having to be posted. Intacct will actually post that transaction automatically for you. So let's take a look at some of that. First of all, entering a multi-currency transaction. So if I'm in my USA company one that has a functional or base currency of US dollars, and I come in and I'm going to enter in an accounts payable transaction, I can choose a vendor. I'll choose National Grid. So this company is in the United States, so their transaction currency will default to US dollars. But it doesn't have to always be US dollars. I can hit my currency drop-down list and say, this time they sent us an invoice in Great Britain pounds. So I just choose that currency. The system knows what the exchange rate is as of today to translate GBP into USD. And as I put in my amount in GBP, my system will automatically calculate that into US dollars for me. This exchange rate comes from Oanda. It is automatically drawn into the system. You don't have to import exchange rates. You can override these if you want to, and they are fully historical. So realistically, if we were putting in a bill today, this bill is probably not dated for today. It might be, say, June 18th. You'll see my exchange rate date changes to June 18th, and my exchange rate has changed. In fact, this is extremely historical. I could change my exchange rate date back to 2005, and the system would know what the exchange rate was at that point in time. I can also just manually override this myself to a custom exchange rate, and the system will respect it. So I know in a lot of solutions that if you have this situation where you have a vendor or a supplier that sometimes bills you in one currency, but then other times bills you in a separate currency, you actually have to have two separate vendors set up or suppliers. In Intacct, you don't need to do that. You can use the same supplier or vendor, and you can just on every transaction choose which currency they sent you an invoice for. When we pay this bill, the system will look at what the exchange rate was when we entered the bill, what the exchange rate is now when we're paying the bill, and it will automatically post the realized exchange rate gain or loss for you. So one little example. Next would be the intercompany transactions. So the most simple solution, or the most simple example, I should say, for that is a transfer of money out of one bank account into another. So if I come in and look at some of the historical ones that I've posted, you can see here, this one here, for example, on April 25th, almost all of them actually, just because I do this so often. But if we look at this transaction, we can see that we are taking money out of bank account 100. So bank account 100 is owned by company 100. And we're transferring that money into bank account 400. And that bank account is owned by company 400. So we've transferred money out. So this journal entry would require a due to, due from transaction. And if we click on the posting details, we can see that the system has posted the due to, due from for us automatically based off of our inter-entity setup. So a really convenient feature there. Next would be the consolidations. So if you need to consolidate your financials into a single currency, under the consolidations module, you can set up as many sets of consolidation books as you require. In here right now, we have a global set of books in US dollars, a North American set of books in US dollars, and a non-USA locations in GBP. Setting up a new set of books is really simple. We're not going to go through the whole setup. We fill out some information here. Most importantly, what currency are we going to consolidate these books into? After that, we can move to the Entities to Consolidate tab. This is where we just choose the entities that are going to be included in this consolidation. We can enable inter-entity auto eliminations. So as we hit that checkbox, we'll see a new tab pop open. So just keep an eye here to the elimination accounts. As I take this checkbox away or add it, that tab comes and goes. On the elimination accounts, the system will pull in any of the intercompany accounts related to the entities that we selected on the prior tab, because those should eliminate when we consolidate. And then if we need to add any other elimination entries down below, or elimination accounts, sorry, such as like intercompany revenue, intercompany expenses, we can just pick them from our drop down of GL accounts, or we could type in the GL account, of course, if we knew what it was. Once our books are set up, we can run consolidations. That just happens from the Run a Consolidation tab or menu. From here, we can choose the set of books that we want to run a consolidation for. We choose the period we would like to consolidate. We click on Consolidate with Options. We see the rates that are being used to consolidate Australian dollars to US dollars, Canadian dollars to US dollars, the ending spot rate and the weighted average rate. Again, these are pulled from OANDA, but if you want to override them, you can manually override them here at this point in time. Once your consolidations are ran, all of your consolidated financials are always readily available for you. So the easiest place for me to find all of those right now is on a dashboard. So we do have a consolidations dashboard here, and that will go ahead and bring in all of these statements. So we have a consolidated balance sheet for our global set of books in US dollars. It shows each entity listed out from left to right. We have a consolidated P&L for our global set of books. We scroll down a little bit further, we get a consolidated P&L for our non-US books in GBP, a consolidated P&L for our North American books in USD, and then a consolidated balance sheet for both of those sets of books as well. So really strong consolidation, multi-entity management available in Intacct. So this is just one little example of a dashboard. We're going to take a look at some other dashboards in a couple of moments, but is a little bit of material I want to cover before we jump into that. So what I want to cover before we jump into dashboards, and I'm just going to queue up the dashboard that we're going to look at in a moment. All the dashboard functionality in Intacct, majority of it, I shouldn't say all, but mostly all of it, comes from the financial reports out of Sage Intacct. The financial reporting out of Intacct, in my opinion, is what really makes it stand out from the competition in the area. Not just the financial reports that it can build, but how easy it is to build those reports, and then how easy Intacct makes it for you to focus in on particular data that helps drive your KPIs, helps drive decision making, really makes drilling into specific areas of your data really easy and gives you a lot of valuable insight. So the way Intacct does that, the backbone of that drill down functionality, that ease of getting to your data, comes from what Intacct calls dimensions. So the way I like to describe dimensions is, if you think of a segmented chart of accounts where you would have your core GL account number, and then you would have either a period or a dash or some type of separator, and then you would start listing out sub accounts, either to identify a department or a project or a revenue stream or a profit or a cost center, some type of identifier. Whatever those sub accounts would be or would have been, they come off of your core GL account number, and they come into their own standalone list. So if we use our department dimension here as an example, in a segmented chart of accounts, for every GL account that we wanted to be able to track the data across by department, we would have the core GL account number dash 100, dash 200, dash 300, dash 400, dash 500, and then we would move on to the next GL account that we want to be able to track departmental activity across. So within Intacct, we don't do that. You don't have to have a vast amount of GL account numbers. You just have one, or not just one GL account number, but there's no sub accounts, I guess is the easy way to put it, on your GL accounts in Intacct. Everything becomes its standalone list. And when you tag financial data, you tag a GL account number plus any number of departments that are relevant to that financial data. So the out of the box dimensions that you get are the department dimension, the class dimension, the location dimension, and the item dimension. Technically, employee, customer, vendor, and bank account, they're all dimensions as well, but they are what they are. There's no repurposing those in my opinion. Whereas the class, department, and the locations, we mold those to each client's particular use. So to visualize that, if we're putting in a transaction, say we get a bill for our monthly rent and we allocate our rent out across our departments based on square footage. In a segmented chart of accounts, you would have a rent account like I have here, 6,300, and then you would have dash one, so 6,300 dash 100 dash 200 and so on. In Intact, instead of having multiple GL accounts, you have the same GL account, but after you code a GL account, you also tag your dimensions. So I can say this line is for the sales department, this is for services, this is for admin, this is for marketing, and this is for IT. And then, of course, we would put in the amount that is relevant for each department. Quick little thing, Intact has like a little calculator built in. So we can do some transactional allocations, but while I'm here, let's say our monthly rent is 2,500 and 25% of that goes to the sales department. I could put an asterisk like I would in Excel and put 0.25. So and that'll give me 625. And then I can go 2,500 times 0.3, 2,500 times 0.15. I missed the decimal apparently, so that's too high, and so on. So what this does is it allows me to keep my GL structure as concise as possible. I don't need to build a vast amount of GL accounts. I will be able to, at any point in time, look and see what the overall balance in my rent GL account is. If I'm not looking to see how each department is operating, I just want to know how much we spent in rent for a year or 2 years or 3 years or a quarter or a month for all departments combined. I can do that with ease. If I want to run a financial report or a GL detail report and only see my rent that was put into the admin department, I can do that at ease. If I want to run a GL detail report or financial report and see rent for just the sales, services, and marketing department, I can do that. And if I want to run a financial report or GL detail and show the rent expense allocated to each individual department, but see the total as well, I can do that as well. So this type of setup gives you all of that flexibility still. It just becomes a lot easier. And to highlight that, I will show you some financial reporting. So I'm going to jump into my financial reports and I'm going to go ahead and just look up my standard profit and loss. So this is a standard profit and loss, all the financials combined together. We're going to grab our summary right here. So when I run this report, it's pretty standard. I put in an as of date. I can select some dimensions here if I want to filter, but that's not what we're doing right now. So I leave those blank and we run the report. And with that, I just get my basic P&L. Now I've configured this P&L to show me my current month based on my report parameters, my prior month, my period variance in percentage. I could put it in dollars if I wanted to. I could add some conditional formatting in here too to show red and green highlighting based off certain values. And then I have a P&L for my entire year to the right of it. So if after running this report, say fantastic, but now I'd like to see how this 2.45 is broken out across each of my departments. Realistically, you would have a second report ready to go, like I have right here, my departmental breakdown. If I run this report, as long as I've not mislabeled this, when we run this report, we should get exactly that. So you see now we just have one column and it's broken out by each one of my departments across the top. To the right, we have a full all departments here, and we can see that we still have the 2.45 million net income. So that's how you can see all departments at once and still get your total. If you want to run this and you want to get rid of a lot of this that's on the screen, maybe you're just focusing in on the IT department. Well, when you're running that report, you can filter for a specific department or group of departments. Just take the IT department And then when this runs, it will run just for the IT department. You notice my revenue section is gone because it's all zero. And since we're not showing the other departments that had revenue, it doesn't have to show those rows. So we get a less cluttered report. We still get all of the same information just to show the flexibility of what you can do here. And of course, everything is drillable. So if I click on a dollar amount, that is going to drill me into the GL detail report. From the GL detail report, if I click on a dollar value, all of these are actually journal entries. We can tell it because it says GJ in the columns here. If I click on a dollar amount, that will bring me back to a source journal entry. If on my GL detail report, some of these transactions or one of these transactions, any amount of them, were sourced from an accounts payable bill or a purchasing transaction. I don't have any here just because it's a demo environment. But if I were to click on a dollar value for an accounts payable bill, it would bring me back to the bill itself, not just to the journal entry that was created when we entered that accounts payable transaction. It would bring me back to that record. So the drill down functionality in here is very good. And this type of breakdown, this type of data gathering, this can happen for any dimension that I mentioned a moment ago, the department dimension, the class dimension, the location dimension, vendor, customer, project, if you get into project accounting, and so on. And it can happen on any report, not just financial reports, but even, say, a GL detail report. So if I wanted to go run a GL detail report, if I wanted to run my GL detail report and see it for all departments, I would simply leave my department dimension, which is near the top here. I would leave this blank. But if I want to run a GL detail report and isolate data that I find, say just for a specific department or group of departments, when I'm running this, I would simply choose a department, say my services department. And when I click on view, the system will only bring back entries related to that specific department. So it really lets you focus in on your data. And you can see here on my GL detail report, I can tell that all of this is for department 200. So my filter worked effectively. So really great stuff there. Building off the financial reporting and drill down capabilities is back to the dashboards. So dashboards in Intacct are fantastic as well. A lot of this data is always derived from some financial reports that we've built. It comes with all the same powers, so I can filter my dashboard by a date, by a department, by a location, or a class. You can decide what filters are available here at the top of the screen. You can have as many dashboards in your system as you like. So as you can see in my environment, I have quite a vast amount of dashboards available here, 20 or so at least. A question we always get is, are the dashboards role-based? Are they user-based? Are they for everybody? The answer is all of the above. On each individual dashboard here, you can determine on a one-by-one basis which of your users can and cannot see each individual dashboard. So nice and simple to control that security as well and the visibility into your organization. The dashboards can be, I call it flashy, like this one, with a lot of nice graphs and visuals. So it's great stuff here. We have a line graph at the top here, which is essentially a P&L report. Our revenue is the top line. Our expenses are the bottom, and the middle line is our net income. We then have some performance indicators. So we're comparing our services revenue against our budget. We're comparing our total revenue against the prior month, comparing our labor costs versus the prior month, and so on. These differences, they don't have to be percentages, they can be dollar values. And it doesn't just have to be budget or prior month. It can be this quarter versus last quarter, this fiscal year to date to prior fiscal year to date. You could show it against 5 years ago if you wanted to. You can pick and choose what your comparative period is for each of these indicators. Then we got horizontally stacked bar graph, a vertically stacked bar graph. We have a pie graph, more performance indicators, more graphs, more performance indicators, more graphs, and so on. So some cool things about these dashboards. Some stuff on them are a little interactive. So if I want to isolate my revenue line for this graph, I can click on my key at the bottom of the graph and take away the other two lines. And I can do that as freely as I like. Do that with pretty well any graph here. So if you want to isolate portions of your graphs, nice and easy to do. If you want to see the financial data, there's a show data button at the bottom of every widget. That is a graph, I should say, not every widget, but you see you can get the financial data here, you can get the financial data here, get the financial data here. So it lets you get into the dollar values really easy. But my favorite thing about them is since they are derived from financial reporting, they maintain drill down functionality. So if I hover over a revenue dot and click on a revenue dot, I'm going to drill into the revenue portion of my P&L for that month. And then from here, I can continue to drill back to the GL detail report and source transactions. If I click on an expense dot, I'm going to drill into the expense portion of my P&L. And I'm sure everybody can take a guess what happens if I click on a net income dot. It is going to show me my full P&L. It'll load in, and there's the full P&L. And I can do that with any of these graphs. The performance indicators are not drillable like that, but the graphs are. So if you click on any part of a graph, it will drill you in to that portion of the relevant statement for that graph, how that graph is derived. So the dashboards can be as kind of flashy as this, as I'll say, but they can also be more purpose-based, if you will. So if we go ahead and we look at, say, like a month-end close dashboard that someone has built in here. This is not as flashy or as fancy, but it doesn't make it any less valuable. So on here, a month-end close dashboard, we have a checklist displaying that lists our month-end activities. You'll notice these are assigned out to users in the system. So by having this checklist available, Nikki, Ryan, and Emma can all go into this checklist and they can edit this checklist and say where they are with their assignment. They can put in any notes that they want to put here. So when you log in and you want to see how far along your month end is, you don't have to go follow up with Nikki, Ryan, and Emma. They update this checklist, and when you look at your dashboard, you can see how far along they are. Now, if that triggers you to reach out to them, so be it, but at least they can give live updates to you. We have a close through summary here. We have a custom navigation into some month-end activity actions like reconciling the bank, closing your subledgers. We have some approval lists, so transactions that are awaiting approval, and so on. So some great examples of some dashboards available out of here. Really great stuff with the dashboard functionality. Moving away from the dashboards and financial reporting, the next module we're going to take a look at will be the purchasing module. Now, the purchasing module is effectively a more powerful accounts payable module. Okay, they are completely intertwined with one another. Like if I want to add a new vendor, I can add a new vendor from the accounts payable module or the purchasing module. It doesn't matter where you navigate, it's the same screen, it's available in both modules. They're just so interlinked. The accounts payable module, the core accounts payable module out of Intacct is really, really good. It has approvals built into it. The data entry is nice and easy. The looking for your vendors. Handle 1099s in the United States. We can print MICR checks or generate EFT files, ACH files, all that good stuff. So a really good module. The reason that we show the purchasing module on the demo rather than the AP module is because the approval policies that are available in the purchasing module compared to the AP module are much more flexible and robust. And also because in the purchasing module, you can build a procurement workflow, enforce this procurement workflow. You can get your three-way or four-way match. You can set up rules for variance allowances and so on. So it really lets you implement an in-system procurement process to control your purchases. So you build this from start to finish. It can start from purchase requisitions or quotes and move into purchase orders, then move into receipt of inventory if you're an inventory-based company, and move into the vendor invoice. I have a lot of clients that skip the purchase requisition phase. They say we're going to start with a purchase order, but that purchase order is going to go for approval. And that approval, like it going for approval, is kind of acting as the purchase requisition. We're just going to cut out one step of the workflow. That's perfectly fine. So you get to build it from start to finish. It's yours to decide. And the approvals that we can turn on, we can put on any document in the workflow. So I just don't mean purchase requisitions or purchase orders. I mean that in here, if we have two different purchase requisitions, which we do, I can have a different approval workflow on my purchase requisition than the approval workflow that's on my quote. On my purchase orders, I can have a completely separate approval policy on my purchase orders than are on my purchase requisition or my quote. And I could put a new one on my inventory purchase orders or my spend management purchase orders. So on a document by document basis, you can have different approval policies. Now, the way those approval policies work is a number of ways. The most basic is you can choose a specific person or a combination of specific people. You can say this goes to Matthew, then it goes to Neil, then it goes to Sarah, then it goes to Nicole. You can just pick the people, but it will follow that every single time. It can be value based. So you set your dollar thresholds for each different level. Like level 1 can be 0 to 10,000, or it can be 0 to 10 million. And then level 2 picks up where level 1 ends off, level 3 picks up where level 2 ends off, and so on. Now that value approval can be direct or progressive. So if we put in a transaction that is for $500,000 and that is in level 3 of our thresholds, if we've picked the direct method, it is going to skip level 1 approvers, skip level 2 approvers, and go right to a level 3 approver. If we have chosen the progressive, a little self-explanatory, it's going to first go to a level 1 approver, then to a level 2, and then to the level 3. So it'll hit all 3 levels of approval. So those are the more basic rules we can set up. The most popular rules we can set up are based off of manager assignments to particular dimensions in our system. So the department dimension, the project dimension, which in my system I've renamed to be Grant, but this is the project dimension. So I can actually relabel the dimensions in here. The department dimension, the project dimension, the location dimension, and the employee dimension, they can all have their standalone lists, and each option in those lists, such as say the admin department, they can all have managers assigned to them. And the way the managerial approvals work are, if I were to put in this transaction and tag the admin department, the system will see that. It will say department 300 is tagged here. It will look up and see who the manager of department 300 is, and then it will route that to them for approval. So we can do that off of multiple dimensions. The approvals, by the way, they don't have to be single step. It doesn't have to be one of those options that I just gave. You can actually tell the system, first go to the department manager for approval, then go through value approval, then go to the project manager for approval, then go to Matthew for approval, then go to the location manager for approval, then go to Neil, Sarah, and Nicole, right? They can be very, that is complete overkill. I know that, but I just want to let you know that it's possible to do that. It's a very easy thing to do. So just in the purchasing module, we can come to our configuration tab. We can scroll down until we find our approval policies right here. We can click manage, and then we can see each document that we have an approval policy set up on, and we can either edit or add new ones. So if we look at the purchase requisition approval policy, first this goes to the department manager, then it goes to the project manager, then it's going to go to Tom. If I wanted to add layers in here, I say after Tom approves it, then we're going to go through value approval. After it goes through value approval, we're going to send it to another user, and that user is going to be Matthew. So you can see how robust you can get here with your approvals. And you can switch these around whenever you like. Whatever's already in approval will not reroute based off this rule, but going forward, they would go that way. You get a very nice audit trail on your approval policies. So if I jump in and look at a list of my purchase requisitions, I'm going to see some purchase requisitions with different states. So the first state we see is converted. So what this means is this transaction's been entered into the system. It went through any approval policies that were required, and it has been moved along our workflow. So there's a purchase order or a purchase order and an invoice, or just there are more documents. This purchase has moved forward. If we click on the word converted, we can get some really valuable information. We can see how far along in the workflow that has gone. So we can see that it started as a purchase requisition. The same day, the purchase requisition was converted into the purchase order. And the same day, again, our purchase order was converted into the vendor invoice. If you want to see any of those documents, the purchase order, click on the PO. It'll pop the PO open for you here on your screen. Obviously, you can maximize it out and get a better look. Same thing with the invoice. We can also see that this purchase requisition did go through some type of approval. So there's an approval history link here. If we click on the approval history link, we can see that this was meant to go to the department manager, which was Mark. It was then going to go to the project manager, who was Ryan, and then it was going to move along to Tom for approval. If we scroll over a little bit though, we can see that Mark, Ryan, or Tom, they never approved this transaction. It got approved by me. And when I did that override of approval, I made a note as to why Mark, Ryan, and Tom, they're all out of office, and this is for emergency repairs. So we had to push this through, and we just wanted to follow the procurement process. So I've done this by design just to show you that there are ways to override the approvals, there are ways to set delegates, and there's really no way for anything to be stuck in limbo. Just another nice convenience of this in-system approval workflow. So that's a converted document. Now the submitted document's not going to be much different. The only difference is going to be this is not moved along the workflow. It can't because it was not approved yet. And if we want to see who it's waiting approval with, we can click on the approval history link. And that will show us that first it's supposed to go to Ryan, then it's going to go to Tom and Tom. Now, Intact is smart enough so that after Ryan approves it, when it gets Tom's approval, he'll only have to click approve once. The system will recognize that he is a consecutive approver here, and it will put his stamp of approval on his two levels, and then that transaction would be ready to move along the workflow. The convert functionality is not to be undervalued. So nothing here can be converted because everything is already converted and anything that isn't converted is submitted, awaiting approval. So there's no convert button available here for me to move this along my workflow. But if I go to my purchase orders, I believe I have some in here that can. There are. So once something is entered and it goes through the approval and you're ready to move it along your workflow, you don't have to look that document up and try to manually copy the data across to a new document. You can do one of two things. You can A, click on convert and say, I want to convert this to a vendor invoice or whatever document the system's configured to allow it to be converted into. It will grab all of the information off of your first document and pull it in for you. You will have to fill in a couple of things like the invoice number if you're converting it to an invoice. Maybe you want to add some more details. You have all of that option, but it just shaves down on your keying time by copying the data over. Your other option is if you are interested in seeing maybe the ADP one would be an example. You have an invoice for an ADP bill, but you don't know which PO it's for. You can click view on the PO first. And if you get in there and you say, okay, yeah, this is the correct one. This is the PO that I have the invoice for. When you're on this screen, you can then click more actions and then you can click convert to and go to a vendor invoice. So there's always a couple of ways to get through the same functionality within Intact, but a really nice feature. There is more functionality in this purchasing module, partial conversions, variance allowances, vendor approvals, but out of the interest of time, that's all I'm going to show for this module and we'll move forward. The next module we'll touch on very briefly is the order entry module. So just like the purchasing module is intertwined and simply a more powerful AP module, the order entry module is just a more powerful AR module. It is more common for my clients to use the purchasing module to have their procurement process. But when they get to the sales side of their business, they just stick with core AR because they don't need all this workflow functionality in their sales side. But if you want it, it is here. The order entry module is essentially a mirror image, a twin of the purchasing module. The only difference is instead of setting up vendors, you set up customers. And instead of putting in payables, you're putting in receivables. So you're coding to revenue instead of expenses the majority of the time. So all the same functionality as the purchasing module, less approvals. There is no approval policy set up on the sales side of the business within Intact. So that's really all the time we're going to spend here, other than I will say what people like most about the AR and order entry module in Intact is the ability to send your documents in bulk. So if you want to send out anything from your sales cycle, whether it's invoices, statements, or late payment notices, we can help automate that for you. So if we want to send out, say, our invoices, we come into print or email our documents, we set up some filters, and I'm going to do the entire year of 2019. I'm going to click on previously sent because I have sent these probably 150 times. Down below here, you can choose which documents from your sales cycle you want to send out. So if you wanted to send your sales invoices and your sales orders, any that have yet to be sent, you can put multiple document types here and the system will send them out accordingly. But I'm just going to choose my sales invoices for now. I will click on view. That will pop open a brand new screen for me. It shows me which invoices are here to be sent out. It gives me a nice total at the bottom. You're going to notice there's no emails in here. That is just because it's a demo environment and we don't have email addresses on the customers. But if you did have email addresses attached to your customers, they would automatically be here for you. You could edit them on the spot if you wanted to, and then you can send them out in bulk. And there is a nice email history log in Intact that lets you know if your emails left the system, if they got delivered into the inbox, and even if they were opened. So you get a nice audit trail on your emails as well. And we can do the same type of process for your customer statements or late payment reminders. Intact calls them dunning notices. I'd never heard that term until Intact releases functionality, but that's what these are, late payment notices. So you set up templates for different time intervals, such as 30 to 60 days overdue gets one type of message, but 60 to 90 days gets another type of message, and then 90 to 120 days gets a different type of message, all with, different wording and stuff. Or they can all have the same wording. You get the flexibility, but generally, if you have the steps, you want stronger wording in your later notices. So that can all be fully, well, not fully automated, but partially automated. There's some buttons that you'll have to click and some parameters you'll have to choose, but you get to do them in bulk. It's not a one by one. It's a nice streamlined process. Probably take 15 or 20 minutes. Cool. So that's the OE module, order entry, OE. The last module we'll talk about today before we open up the floor for questions will be the cash management module. And we'll do this a little bit quick. There's not a whole lot in here anyhow. The cash management module just brings some nice conveniences. First of all, you do your bank recs in the system. Intact can connect with your bank feed, or we can import your bank statement into the system so that you can do all of your bank reconciliations in the system instead of on an Excel spreadsheet, or hopefully nobody's printing out GL details in a bank statement and going with a highlighter. I am young enough to have done that, old enough, I should say, maybe both, but I have done that in my very early days of my career. I wouldn't ever want to go back to it. All of your reconciliation reports, they're all going to live in Intact forever. They don't expire. These have been here since 2019, so 6 years now almost. Some of them have been 6 years. Some of them are coming up on 6 years. You can come download them whenever you want in CSV, Excel, PDF. Your outstanding items report as well. So very easy to get to. It can make certain functionalities just more convenient, such as transferring money from one bank account to another. We looked at that earlier. We can generate ACH payment files, or Intact calls them bank files. Bank files are for the UK. The Intact calls them bank files. Canada tends to call them EFT files. So we can generate those files for you. Now, that doesn't send the file to the bank. It generates the file, you download the file, and you upload it to your bank, but it's in the correct format, and it still helps you process your ACHs or EFT files. We can do other things like streamline entering of bank interest or charges. So you can set up default GL accounts for interest and charges on each bank account. So as you come in here and you click on a bank account and you say you're doing service charges, see, this is coded to other G&A. This should probably be bank charges, its own GL account, but you get the idea. So with service charge selected, we would debit this GL account and we would end up crediting our bank account. If we change this to be interest earned, you'll see our GL account changes to other income, and the system will recognize that we've made a different selection here. And in this case, it would debit your bank account and credit the GL account that you put here. We can do other things like an other receipt. So this is for like an ad hoc receipt of money that you don't have an invoice entered for. You simply put in the payer, like who paid you that money, how they paid you, when they paid you, which revenue account that's going to get allocated out to, and then the system again would do the same thing. Whichever bank account you choose here, it is going to debit that bank account and credit this GL account. So nice convenient features. Probably the most convenient, in my opinion, is the access you get from your bank rec. So as you're doing a bank rec, I don't think I have anything. Do I have something here for this one? Yes, I do. I might not be able to do it here because of how I've imported this. No, I can. So let's pretend here that this $5,100 is a service charge. I know that would be quite a high service charge. But if when you're doing your bank rec, you realize you haven't coded your service charges, you don't want to leave your bank rec, you can click action from here. You can say that you're going to do it as a journal entry, because it's just as easy. There's no real difference. You'll notice that the system has took the date from the transaction. It has also picked the GL account related to the bank account and set it up here as a credit of $5,100. And then we could just go ahead and say we're going to debit our bank charges for that amount, and we would be able to post this journal entry. Now, since I've done this from the screen, you'll notice my $5,100 went away because I created that transaction. So the system automatically matched those two items together, reconcile them together, and then I can move through my bank rec. Now, most of these you would want to click on the match button and find the corresponding transaction that that matches up against. But for those one-offs, so you don't have to leave your bank rec to make an entry to get your bank reconciled, nice and simple to do. Again, there is some more functionality available here in the cash management module, but just due to the fact that this is just an hour-long demo, we don't have time to go into all of that. So before I open up the floor for questions, I will just touch on that one more time. I don't want anyone to walk away thinking they've seen all of Intacct today. I don't even like to say that we have scratched the surface of Intacct. We have glossed over what Intacct can do and the power that it brings. The modules that I did show, AP, consolidations, purchasing order entry, cash management, I showed what I would call the primary functionalities, like the functionalities that anyone using those modules really uses. Behind the scenes for those modules, there is much more functionality that we could enable if you needed. Like I said, for the purchasing module, variance allowances, price lists, discounts, system-driven reports, and so on. So on top of the modules that I did show being at a very high level, there are modules that I didn't even get to mention that Intacct has. Fixed asset management, inventory control, where we can do inventory valuations, fluctuating forecasts, inventory replenishment, inventory cycles, warehousing, organizing your warehouses by aisles, bins, groups, zones, serial number scanning, expiry date tracking, cover LIFO, FIFO, average and standard costing, all that good stuff. As long as you're not doing any manufacturing, it is a strong inventory module. There is a full-blown deferred revenue / revenue recognition module. There is budgeting tools. There is a projects module where you can just do project tracking to track, as often used by not-for-profits for like grant tracking, just tracking revenue and expenses allocated to certain grants or projects. But then if you have project costing and billing, where you have reimbursable expenses that you incur that you're going to bill back to your client with a markup, and your employees are putting in billable time that you want to automatically draw into an invoice, and you can set their rates on a project by project basis. There is a full-blown contracts module where we can handle termed contracts, evergreen contracts, usage billing, tiered pricing, multi-element arrangements, a vast amount of different things. There is an employee expense module, an employee time module, many more dashboards that we can look at, and so on. Just a vast amount of other things that we could show. So if there's anything more that you'd like to see or anything in more detail that you would like to see, all you have to do is let us know, and we would be happy to do a more focused demo for you. And with that, we will open up the floor for questions and answer any questions you may have.
So, Matthew, we do have a question. First question is, are the dashboards and graphs customizable?
Oh,
Noting that you showed the only ones available, are you able to add your own as well?
yeah, they're fully customizable. These aren't even really out of the box dashboards. These were kind of built by Sage somewhere along the way to put out here for you. But my saying on the dashboards is essentially, if the data is in your system, we can find a way to get it to a dashboard for you. So they are fully customizable. There are out of the box dashboards that come with your system, but then they are customizable. You can add as many dashboards as you want. You can change up those dashboards that come out of the box. You can duplicate those dashboards and then change the duplicate. So you keep the one that came out of the box, but you have one to play with type of deal. So fully customizable, fully configurable, basically put any information you want out here on the dashboards as long as it's in your system.
Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. Are the features available to track total amount billed on a contract?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if you're talking like a subscription-based contract, like you would actually be using the contracts module. Yeah, on every contract by default, there is a tab that shows how much you have billed for that contract to date. But even if you aren't using the contract module, let's say, you don't really have the full need for all this full contract functionality. We could just make any one of the other dimensions, project dimension, department dimension, class dimension. We could rename that to contracts for you. And then whenever you send an invoice or receive a bill or an expense for that contract, when you're coding out your data, you will tag that contract. And then at any point in time, we could run a summarized report or a detailed report that would show you what you've billed out and allocated to that said dimension. But if you're on, say, are using the contracts module, you can see right here, plain as day, billed amount to date, 40,682.25. And that will come with every single contract that you set up. So multiple ways we can handle it, but the answer is 100% yes. We would be able to track how much you bill by contract, whether you're using the full contracts module or whether we come up with another way. Just the answer is still yes, no matter what.
Thanks, Matthew. I see no more questions right now. We'll give them maybe a minute or so to pop in any additional. But if you think of anything, of course, after our session today, my email is sarah.leg@vision33.com. And then Matthew, of course, is matthew.frampton@vision33.com. And we'll be able to point you in the right direction. So we'll go ahead and end it there. But again, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out and we'll find the answers for you.
Awesome. Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Take care. Have a good day.